UFC 315 is this week. I'm going to give you a full card prediction breakdown of all 12 fights on this card, starting with Brad Katona versus Bekzat Almakhan. I'm going to go with Bekzat in this fight. I think he's just much more skilled than Brad Katona. Katona will probably be bigger in this fight, but I think just skill-wise from what we saw against Umar, and he even said when I predicted that fight, is that he'd probably take a round off of Umar, and I think he did hurt him in that fight. Did a pretty good job with the takedowns. He did get taken down a couple times in that fight and controlled, but he did a good job defending in certain moments and looked pretty skilled for a guy on short notice, especially against a top bantamweight who I thought was going to be champion and was going to beat Merab, but obviously that didn't happen. But Bekzat did look really good in that fight. Brad Katona I just don't think is on the same skill level as an Umar, to where Bekzat actually looked pretty impressive in that one, and he's going to have a full training camp for this fight. So I am going to go with Bekzat Almakhan. He's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage also in this one. He's going to be much younger. Took about a year and 2 months off since that last fight against Umar. Again, we'll have a full training camp. I think he's just going to look a lot better than Katona here. He's a minus 180 favorite. I think he's probably going to be the lock of the card for me. In those terms, well, I guess with Benoit Saint-Denis versus, I don't even remember his name. I did the research on the fight. This was quickly made for Benoit Saint-Denis, so I guess Benoit Saint-Denis is probably the lock of the card. But I think betting-wise, Bekzat, it looks really good for this card for me, at least. So I'm going to go Bekzat by decision. I don't think he finishes Brad Katona. I think he just whoops him up a little bit in this fight. So let's move on. We have Daniel Santos versus Jeong. This is a very interesting fight. I feel like a lot of the prelims is going to be very 50-50, but I do think they are going to be some pretty solid fights. So I am very interested, but Daniel Santos, mini Oliveira is what they call him, really nice pressure. Very similar to Oliveira in some ways. Took a lot of damage. I think it was in his debut fight. Was it against Julio Ars, or it was John Castaneda, where he just kept getting hurt and just kept walking him down and came back and finished the fight against John Castaneda there and ended up winning it. But Jeong, he lost his fight because he just got into a firefight with Hiram Mill. That was the one thing I kind of said against Jeong, where he was super patient in all his other fights, but I said, like, I'm going to pick him here, but if he gets into a firefight, he's going to lose. Like, that's Hiram Mill's game. That's exactly what happened, and he got whooped up in that fight. In this fight, I think it's going to be much more different for him. I think he needs to kind of chill out a little bit, keep his distance. He has all the tools on the feet, has decent range as well. We'll have, a 6-inch reach advantage in this fight. He just needs to kind of stay in the center, play off his back foot, kind of just use his hands, bait maybe, I was going to call him Oliveira, bait Daniel Santos in a little bit and land some punches off his back foot and kind of keep that nice little range with him on the feet. Because I think that's how he's going to win. I think he's going to win it by decision. For mini Oliveira here, he hasn't fought in, almost 2 years. And every single fight, and I even said this when he was supposed to fight Davey Grant last month, it's been him pulling out of the fights, and he's the one who pulled out of the Davey Grant fight, and I believe it was a medical issue as well. So I don't like this coming for mini Oliveira. I probably, if he was a little bit more active and fought his last fight, maybe I'd pick him here, especially with the pressure that he's shown in his fights, but I don't feel comfortable picking him in this fight. I think Jeong is just really patient on the feet. I think he'll especially be more patient in this one. He won't get baited into a firefight like he did in his last fight. So I'm going to go with Jeong. A lot of people are taking Daniel Santos. Very interesting. I just don't trust him, especially with all the medical issues. This fight might not even happen with how it's been going for Daniel Santos. So I'm going to go Jeong by decision here, just kind of outpointing Daniel Santos on the feet. Let's move on. We have Marc-André Barriault versus Bruno Silva. A lot of people are taking Marc-André Barriault. I know Bruno Silva is on a 4-fight lose streak, but Barriault has been KO'd 2 times in his last 2 fights in the first round and got KO'd against Dustin Stoltzfus. So it's not something I could really be super confident in. A lot of people are saying Marc-André Barriault can out-wrestle and grapple Bruno Silva here, which I think it could definitely be the case, but I don't think he's even shot a takedown in forever, or at least landed a takedown in forever. At least looked up in his UFC stats, and it's been a very long time since he's ever used his grappling. He's 35 years of age. They're both 35. Bruno Silva, we know, has crazy power in his hands. Be very interesting to see how this fight goes, because I feel like it could go either way. I am going to go Bruno Silva. I don't like him getting KO'd by Dustin Stoltzfus. He got out-grappled and out-wrestled early on in that fight, and when it got set up on the feet, he got KO'd by him. So Dustin Stoltzfus, he has been improving in his last couple of fights, but getting KO'd by him is just a different level, especially in the first round. So I am going to go Bruno Silva. Really good power in his hands. The thing with Andre Barriault is I don't think he's going to finish Bruno Silva in this fight, so I feel like there's going to be ample opportunity for Silva to potentially KO Barriault, even if it's after like a grappling exchange in the first round. Maybe Barriault will be a little bit more sloppy in like a second round. I like a second round TKO for Bruno Silva here. A lot of people are taking Barriault. I don't mind the pick, but I just can't trust him after losing 2 KOs in a row in the first round. I think that chin might be in a pretty rough spot. So I'm going to go with Bruno Silva here by KO. Maybe gets taken down a couple times, and maybe he might just break that way, but both of these guys are in need for a win. So I'm going to go Bruno Silva. It is kind of a 50-50 fight. I'm not touching it betting-wise, but I'm going to go Bruno Silva by second round TKO. Let's move on. We have Navajo Stirling versus Ivan Erslan. Again, one of these fights where you can't find it because ESPN is ass, and Fight Pass doesn't let you watch fights past like 9 months or whatever, or at least within 9 months of it happening. So It is hard to find Navajo Stirling's last fight. You have to go within other means on the internet to find the fight. I don't even think I could even find this one, if I'm being honest. So I just completely ignored the Tuco fight. I forgot even what happened in it. So I'm going to act like that fight didn't even happen. But Ivan Erslan somehow went to a decision and lost against Yeong Cutelaba. He's pretty solid. Like, he's not a bad fighter, but I think Navajo Stirling is just a pretty good prospect from what I've seen, especially in his Contender Series fight. He has some good power in his hands. Still kind of green. I think once he improves, he'll be a real contender at light heavyweight. But again, super green, but he has a lot of power in his hands, really good striking, and is just a really really good athlete. A really nice athlete, but it's not a little sus, but really good athlete that I do like to see. And he's only 27 and a half years of age. We'll have a 7-inch reach advantage in this fight. I think he KOs Ivan Erslan in the first round here. I feel relatively confident in that one, but hard to really trust a guy like Ivan Erslan who goes to a split decision loss to Yeong Cutelaba. I feel like that's not even possible. I feel like you have a higher chance of winning the lottery than going to a split decision, or not even a split decision, but a decision to Yeong Cutelaba and losing. So let's move on. We have Modestas Bukauskas versus Yeong Cutelaba. I'm going to go with Modestas Bukauskas. This one is kind of a weirder fight because I can definitely see Yeong Cutelaba winning this one by KO, because Bukauskas does kind of have his chin out there a little bit when he does strike, but he has been looking really good recently. And I will say Bukauskas, when he has been in the UFC, his last 2 losses have been to like a Vitor Petrino who's got good power in his hands and can grapple. Again, a greener prospect, but you could tell he was definitely getting better, at least more skilled, until he ran into Anthony Smith and is like, okay, let's back up a little bit. Vitor Petrino, let's put the brakes on that. He's going to need a little bit more time. But he got KO'd by Vitor Petrino pretty brutally there, and then got finished against Khalil Roundtree where his knee just got torn up. But there is a little bit of a worry that maybe early on that Bukauskas just gets rocked and put out early by TKO by Yeong Cutelaba. But Bukauskas' hands, I mean, he's very solid on the feet. I can see him surviving. I think he's actually decently underrated for this division. He will run into a cap, at least within the fighters that he is fighting. I think once he breaks into the top 15, potentially like a top 15 prospect, he is going to eventually lose. But I think he beats Yeong Cutelaba here. I can't see him getting finished early on. Cutelaba is very dangerous again early on. But as I always say, betting-wise, always kind of live bet Cutelaba if it's past the first round, kind of bet on his opponent, because he'll always look kind of good in that first round, and the lines will kind of sway a little bit. But I like Modestas Bukauskas. He is the underdog. It is pretty near evens. I wonder if it's kind of shifted to Bukauskas as the favorite, but I think Bukauskas is actually pretty solid on the feet. So I'm going to go with Bukauskas here. He did have a really nice finish in his last fight against Cerquera, where he just got, like, I don't even want to call it like a slinky, but he got knocked out and he kind of like barrel rolled on his his knees or something. It was a very goofy KO where he's just bouncing. It was pretty brutal. Pretty sick KO as well. And he got a pretty nice KO up against the fence. Just like went crazy with the combinations on him. I think he can kind of do the same thing against Cutelaba, where Cutelaba's just kind of gassed. Maybe he defends a takedown and kind of sprawls it out and beats him up on the ground with TKO strikes in a second, or just kind of finishes Cutelaba up, builds a takedown, gets back up, and then finishes him up against the fence like he did in his last fight. I can see that happening for this one, so I do like Bukauskas. Late first or second round TKO here. Again, some people, it's kind of split. I do kind of see it because Cutelaba is kind of always live for a finish, and Bukauskas, he did get finished by Vitor Petrino, so maybe people are a little hesitant on picking Bukauskas. But I will say with Vitor Petrino, he does kind of throw one shot, but he also set up a really nice combination for that KO that he got over him. So I don't see Cutelaba setting something up like that, maybe just raging forward and looking for takedowns and maybe try and ground and pound him. But I just don't see Bukauskas getting caught like that in this fight. So let's move on. We have Jéssica Andrade versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. Again, another very interesting fight here, because Jasmine Jasudavicius is pretty much fighting a lifetime top 5 rank. She's 16 on Tapology rankings. I don't know her actual rank. Maybe she's not even top 15 anymore, Jéssica Andrade, but she's been fighting killers, at least female killers, for her division within flyweight and strawweight her whole career. So we'll see how she looks like against Jasmine Jasudavicius, and Jasmine Jasudavicius has been looking pretty good. She is on a 4-fight win streak. She does use her pressure. She does use her pace. She kind of uses her entire skill set to win fights, and I think this is going to be a really nice skill test for Jasmine Jasudavicius against Jéssica Andrade. So I am to go with Jasmine Jasudavicius. I am a little bit worried. Andrade is a little bit predictable for the high-level fighters, I will say. She kind of just rages forward and throws like crazy hooks and does that kind of thing. But she is stocky. She's got a lot of muscle on her, and she can defend takedowns pretty well. In that case, she was kind of like ragdolled a lot against Tatiana Suarez, and then defended all the takedowns against Mackenzie Dern. So we'll see how Jasmine Jasudavicius looks. She does use her pace and her wrestling pretty well within her offense, so I think she can get the win over Jéssica Andrade. I can see her losing too, but I'm going to stick with Jasudavicius. She's got all the momentum behind her. She is 3 years older. Very interestingly enough, she will have, 6 inches of reach as well, but I think she'll just use her pace, mix in the takedowns with her striking. I think she will win this one by a decision, probably 29-28. I can see Jéssica Andrade maybe taking a round early on. So let's move on. We have Mike Malott versus Charles Radtke. Oof. Again, another close fight here to predict, but I do like Mike Malott striking a little bit more than Charles Radtke in this fight. And he does have some decent wrestling. He did lose to Neil Magny by KO, a pretty big red flag. And I will say at this point for Neil Magny, he was kind of like the gatekeeper for a very long time, but it feels like he's kind of fallen off there. Getting finished by getting decision by Neil Magny and fraud check that way is one thing, but getting finished by him is another. Neil Magny is still pretty solid, but it is kind of a red flag to get finished like that. But Mike Malott has some good hands, has some kind of underrated power. He's got some pop in his shots for sure. I will say his grappling, I don't think, whether it's like a low IQ grappling, he just doesn't know as much or is as advanced in the grappling. But he did make a lot of mistakes against Neil Magny. Neil Magny easily kind of flipped him over on the ground, and we've seen Neil Magny kind of when he gets taken down, he doesn't really do much on the ground, so that was kind of surprising. Mike Malott kind of gassed out a little bit towards the end there and got finished, just tied up by Magny on the ground too with like a body lock. Charles Radtke, I think he does have some pretty good grappling. We haven't seen him, I don't think he's grappled too much in the UFC. I didn't see I forgot how was a Blood Diamond, that doesn't Mike Modestas. I don't remember exactly how that fight went. I probably should have rewatched it, but got the KO over Gilbert Urbina, lost to Carlos Prates to the body, and then got the finish over Matthew Semmelsberger in the first round, which was actually pretty decently impressive. So I like Mike Malott here, but I would not be surprised if Charles Radtke got an upset and maybe TKO'd on Mike Malott in the second or third round after gassing him out. Maybe Radtke looks for takedowns at certain moments in this fight, but I can see him kind of going hand in hand with Mike Malott in the striking, but I think Malott's just a little bit more skilled in the striking. I think Radtke's more of a grappler, especially if it gets to that position. I am a little bit worried if it does go to the ground, but I do like Mike Malott on the feet here. I think 29-28 decision. I do like Radtke as well as a fighter. He is very tough. I don't think he's going to get KO'd at all. If anything, if someone's going to get finished, it probably will be Mike Malott in this fight, but I just like Mike Malott striking enough to where I think he just lands too much on Radtke and lands the better shots in this fight. So it is kind of 50-50 for me. I can see where you could pick Radtke in this fight, but I do like Mike Malott just being a little bit more skilled in this one. So yeah, let's move on. We have Benoit Saint-Denis versus Kyle Prepolec. I believe he was in the UFC before, because once they released his name for who was gonna fight Benoit Saint-Denis on this card, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Fought in the UFC how long ago? In 2019 against Nordine Taleb and Austin Hubbard, and lost both of those fights. Got kicked out of the UFC. Went on a little bit of a run on the regional scene, lost to Shane Campbell, but got a few decent wins recently by finishing, looked pretty good there. So I did watch his fight against Gustavo Wurlitzer, I think is how you say his name, Wurlitzer, in 2024, about a year ago. I don't even know how to describe this. Imagine a Benoit Saint-Denis, but slower, less accurate on the feet, and a lot less power in his hands. Like, I was watching him against Wurlitzer, and he had him up against the fence, and I said the same thing going into the Poirier fight for Benoit Saint-Denis when I watched the Thiago Moises fight, where he's just throwing hands and his chin is just out there. Kyle Prepolec does the exact same thing, but he's a lot slower, doesn't have as much pop in his shots at all, and his chin is just wide open. It feels like it's even worse defensively than a Benoit Saint-Denis. So I don't see Benoit Saint-Denis getting KO'd in this fight. He did come off a pretty rough loss against Renato Moicano, where he just got completely dominated in that fight. Because even in that Dustin Poirier fight, I was like, okay, he's kind of sunning him a little bit. I think a part of it had to do with the antibiotics on his head, where he kind of gassed out later on, because he was whooping up Poirier before. I think it was like the second or third round when he got finished. He was whooping him up, and then he just kind of tired out. But the Renato Moicano, he just got completely out-grappled. In this fight, he's fighting a way lesser version than himself here, and I think it's just going to be a pretty easy KO win for him here. It is going to be extremely disappointing if he somehow loses this fight. I mean, this dude's, what, 30, almost 36 years of age. It's going to have 3 inches less in reach for this fight. He's taking this fight on short notice. This should be a very easy Benoit Saint-Denis first round KO for him in this fight. I mean, again, like I said, just zero defense when he's finishing his opponent up against the cage. Like, his chin was right out there, same way Benoit Saint-Denis does it, but with just less power and just way slower. So if he ever gets into a firefight in this fight, I think he just flatlines Kyle Prepolec in this one, honestly. I think it's just going to be a highlight KO. So I like Benoit Saint-Denis in this one by first round finish, brutal KO. It's going to be nice having him on this card, because I feel like it's going to boost the main card a little bit. And I did say I tried to record this video yesterday, but I didn't like it. So I'm glad they actually had this fight come out so I could pick it. But Benoit Saint-Denis, he is nice to have on the main card, because he is kind of a name. He can get a finish. He's going to have a crazy fight. It bolsters up a main card a little bit. So he definitely adds something. It would have been nice to have maybe like a Rebecca on this card for him to fight, but it is what it is. I'm going to go Benoit Saint-Denis, first round, brutal KO. Let's move on. We have Alexa Grasso versus Natalia Silva. I'm going to go with Natalia Silva. She's very rangy on the feet. Not many people, I will say, know too much about her. I feel like the casual fan base, a lot of people know about Alexa Grasso. She's been the champ for the past couple years. She's really only fought Valentina Shevchenko, and in her last fight, she just got taken down at will. This fight will definitely be on the feet. Her hands have gotten better, like to the point where Valentina basically just made it so it was just a complete wrestling and grappling match to where she didn't feel confident enough on the feet against an Alexa Grasso. But Silva, very rangy on the feet, has a lot of nice kicks, very fast as well, has a lot of output. I think the output is really just going to be a problem for Alexa Grasso in this fight, and it is going to be a 3-rounder. Alexa Grasso was, I would say, maybe in the first fight and the second fight. I think she subbed Shevchenko. Was it the second or third round? Let me double check. I felt like she started super slow in those fights. It was the fourth round where she got the choke. I felt like she started super slow in both of those fights. I think she maybe rocked Valentina in the first round with a jab or something, or the second round. But I felt like she was super slow starting. A 3-round fight might just be like a super weird adjustment for Alexa Grasso coming into this fight. But I just like Silva just being having a little bit more output, being a little bit more rangier on the feet for Alexa Grasso. Grasso will definitely have her moments closing distance, but I like Silva just outlanding her in this fight. So I'm going to go with Natalia Silva by decision. And I think Grasso might not acclimate too well into a 3-round fight where she doesn't have as many opportunities to eventually land something in the later rounds, like 4 or 5 or 3, 4, and 5, where she would in like a championship fight. So I'm going to go with Natalia Silva here, just outlanding her on the feet, scoring a lot of points on the feet, and winning this one by decision. So let's move on. We have Jose Aldo versus Aiemann Zahabi. I'm going to go with Jose Aldo in this fight. After watching the Pedro Munoz fight, I feel like Jose Aldo can do that same game plan, but just at a much higher level, in my opinion, because Pedro Munoz was just doing a good job kind of standing there in the pocket, throwing his jab, throwing leg kicks, and kind of dodging out of the way of Aiemann Zahabi's attacks. And I feel like Jose Aldo just does that stuff just like a lot better. The only way that guys have been able to beat Jose Aldo as of recent is basically just making the fight super boring and holding him up against the fence. So maybe if Aiemann Zahabi does that in this fight, just tries to clinch him the entire fight, maybe he can get it done. But Petr Yan was like really the only one to fuck up Jose Aldo, let's be real. And then after that, it was really just Merab and Mario just kind of holding him up against the fence, and he's won every fight outside of those. So I think Jose Aldo can do the Pedro Munoz game plan, kind of just throw out the jab, play decently at range, and tear up the legs of Aiemann Zahabi in this fight. Again, I think if Zahabi's going to win it, it'll probably just be a super boring fight, and this is his home crowd. I wonder if he does try to do something like that, I wonder if the crowd will boo, because everybody pretty much loves Aldo. So I think Aldo wins this one by 30-27 decision, maybe 29-28 decision. I think he just schools Zahabi on the feet, doesn't get hit too much in this fight, and I think he just chews up the legs. And I don't think Zahabi can really get going in this one. So I'm going to go with Jose Aldo by decision. Let's move on. We have Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot. I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot in this one. I think she's just, from what we've seen from Valentina, she's 37 now. They're both kind of old for being a fighter, but Valentina, in both of her fights, she kind of resorted to just wrestling, especially her last fight. I think it seemed pretty clear that she just did not want to stand up with Alexa Grasso, which is kind of like a little bit of a red flag, in my opinion. And I think Manon Fiorot, defensively, takedown-wise, is going to have much better takedown defense to Alexa Grasso, who couldn't defend anything, really, in her fight against Shevchenko. Manon Fiorot is also pretty big, I will say. I think they're very similar in height. Oh, no, she's, 2 inches taller, will be super rangy on the feet. She has very long legs. I think she's going to be able to kind of teep to the body, maybe even side kick to the body. She's got all the tools on the feet, basically throw everything at Valentina, and then also be able to outmuscle her in certain moments and defend the takedowns where Shevchenko mostly feels comfortable. Because if she's not comfortable on the feet, she's going to shoot in for takedowns and can kind of control it that way, or at least get people thinking about the takedowns so she can load up on her stand-up. But for Shevchenko, she doesn't have as much output as I think a Manon Fiorot normally does. Like, Manon Fiorot is not the best-looking punches, it's not the best-looking kicks, but she throws a lot of punches at you, and I think she's just going to win this fight on output, in my opinion. I don't think she finishes Valentina in this one. I just think Valentina's just going to really struggle with finding her way in this fight. I think Manon Fiorot's way too balanced. She's got enough size to where I think it's going to be a problem physically for Shevchenko in this one. So I do like Manon Fiorot. I'm going to say 49-46 decision for Manon Fiorot. I think Shevchenko's going to have some moments maybe in the clinch, maybe get to the body of Fiorot and maybe land certain punches early on in the fight as Fiorot gets more adjusted. But the thing with Fiorot is she'll throw punches and then she'll follow up and throw a kick, and she throws a lot of combinations, even if it's super sloppy. She'll throw way more output than her opponents. So that's what I really like about her. I think she wins this one by decision. Again, Valentina in her last fight against Alexa Grasso, I think the takedowns and just wanting to resort to that immediately says a lot about what Valentina thinks about her stand-up would have been against Alexa Grasso. So I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot. I think she wins this one by decision. Plus 130 underdog. I think she's going to be a really solid underdog on this card. So let's move on. Up the card to the main event, we have Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. I'm pretty sure I did an early prediction for this one. I am going to go with Jack Della Maddalena. I am pretty 50-50 on this fight. I will say Jack JDM is probably my favorite fighter in the UFC. But outside of that, just skill for skill, from what we've seen from both of these guys, I can be unbiased in certain points. Belal Muhammad, I think, is very good. He's very underrated. He is a little bit old. He's getting there, 37 years of age. He's very strong. His hands have gotten a lot better. You can see his strength in his grappling and his wrestling. You can see the improvements in his stand-up. He does have a little bit of pop in his shots. He's a little bit sloppy on the feet still, but he just came off his best performance against Leon Edwards in his last fight, so you can't really take anything away from him. He did have a moment, I think, in like the 5th round where he got busted open pretty badly, where Leon almost tried to do the same thing, and he just loves to turn it on in the 5th round but can't do it for the entire fight. I don't know what's up with Leon mentally there, but JDM has also been improving. He's 28 years of age, almost 29. Took about a year off from that Gilbert Burns fight because he broke his arm or whatever it was, and from what we saw, at least before that fight, his grappling looked a lot better. His takedown defense looked a lot better. There were moments where he was on the ground. I think that fight was a lot closer than a lot of people would admit. And JDM is also very underrated. I feel like a lot of people undermine him. Like they saw the Basil Hafez fight and the Kevin Holland fight were just complete bullshit scorecards where he just got absolutely screwed on those scorecards and got screwed over on the scorecards against Gilbert Burns. It was arguably 1-1 going into that 3rd round. And they had it like 2-0 or something. I think one scorecard had it 1-1 and maybe the rest were 2-0. He's been getting fucked over on the judges' scorecards is all I'll say. The Silva Hafez fight shouldn't have been a split decision. Should have been a 29-28 decision for sure for JDM. And his grappling looked really bad. He's pulling a lot of guillotines in that fight. And you've seen over his career in the UFC that his grappling slowly got better. You saw the Ramazan Amir fight where I think he got caught up in a darce pretty badly, got out of it in like the last second and was able to survive and finish him up. But the Silva Hafez fight looked really bad takedown-wise. And that one, and you have seen his grappling look a lot better, especially in that Gilbert Burns fight. And it has been a year later. I guess he submitted Craig Jones in grappling. Like there's a video of him just putting him out cold in the grappling. I don't know why they released that before the fight, but it'll definitely be very interesting. I think JDM can go size for Belal here. I think they're very similar in size in this one. Maybe Belal is a little bit more stacked muscle-wise, but stand-up-wise for JDM, he's got, I mean, all the stand-up in the world, has really nice, crisp boxing that I really like watching. That's why I like watching JDM so much, is because there's like the boxers, really good boxers in the UFC just look so much better because it's, you don't really, with it being MMA, skills are kind of spread out. You have wrestlers, you have grapplers, you have stand-up fighters, kickboxers, Muay Thai guys, BJJ guys, Sambo guys. Like you have it all spread out. But when you see like a boxer in the UFC just kind of unloading on guys, going to the body, not many of fighters in the UFC go to the body with their hands. It's pretty impressive in my opinion. JDM does that. His boxing has always looked pretty crisp, has a good chin as well, has really good power in his hands. I just think in this fight, his grappling has just come a really long way, and I think there's going to be so many moments in this fight where he can tag Belal Muhammad on the chin, and I just don't see any finishing threat from Belal in this fight. Even if you say like stand up, if you get like JDM worried about the takedowns and Belal Muhammad's stand up's going to look really good and maybe he hurts JDM, I don't think that really happens because JDM's chin is just really good. I just think with guys like JDM, you'll see with Shavkat too, they're very opportunistic. I guess Shavkat just came off his first ever decision, but they're very opportunistic with finishes. When the moment's there, they'll strike it and they end up getting the finish. And I feel like JDM has really good finishing instincts, especially in a fight. Like if he hurts a guy, he'll get on him and try to finish him up. But JDM's hands are just way too lethal in my opinion. Belal Muhammad just doesn't pose too much of a threat in this fight. I don't see him just completely out-grappling JDM. And I think JDM has more dog in him than a Leon Edwards in my opinion. Like I don't think he's going to get discouraged after 2 rounds of getting out-grappled like Leon Edwards did. I just don't think that happens. JDM is also seems pretty strong as well. I will say, again, like I said earlier, Belal's a little bit more bulkier, but they're going to be very similar in size. I think JDM is going to defend quite a bit of the takedowns. He has Craig Jones in his corner. We saw even Bulk, I thought, did pretty decent against Islam's wrestling and grappling in certain moments. Craig Jones is definitely a very good grappling coach to have in your corner for sure. So I like JDM in this fight. I just think there's too many moments for him to finish Belal Muhammad on the feet here, even maybe reverse positions on the ground and maybe defend some of the early takedowns. But I will say in 3, 4, and 5 is where you're going to get a little bit worried for JDM, because if he doesn't get a finish in those rounds, or at least before in the first and second rounds, I feel like Belal can kind of put things together, because you'll see a JDM who's gassed a little bit by a pretty big guy in Belal, just putting you in pretty bad positions and pretty bad grappling positions and gassing you out a little bit. So I do like Belal maybe in the 4th and 5th rounds kind of just dominating in those ones, but I feel like early on and even throughout the fight, even if JDM is getting dominated, there's going to be certain points where he's going to have moments on the feet to potentially KO Belal, and Belal is kind of due for a KO. It's been a very long time, but his chin, Belal can be put out cold for sure. Like we saw it against Luque. He lost to Jeff Neal in 2019, but we saw him get KO'd against Luque in 2016 and haven't seen anything like that since maybe the Leon Edwards fight where he's just getting rocked all over the place. So Belal Muhammad is kind of due a little bit. He, again, doesn't have the best chin, is 37 years of age, could be coming into this fight with an injury more so than a JDM, who I guess is just coming off an injury. And I do think he's going to look a little rusty coming out the gate, but I think once JDM kind of gets in his flow state, kind of gets everything put together, I think there's going to be a lot of moments to get a finish, and I feel like JDM has just got that dog in him. He's going to find the finish more than a Leon Edwards, who's very patient, very boring, plays off his back foot, and kind of just plays the counter game the entire time. So I like JDM in this fight. I'm going to say JDM finish in the second round by TKO. I think he hurts Belal at the end of the first. Probably gets taken down early against Belal, gets back up to his feet, lands pretty good on Belal. Belal gets hurt. Second round comes in. He tags up Belal again. We get like a 1-2 and throws a hook and then goes to the body, and Belal kind of covers up a little bit, tries to shoot for a takedown. JDM gets an underhook, kind of reverses position, beats up Belal. Belal gets back up to his feet, fails another takedown, gets back up, and then I can see JDM kind of just finishing up Belal up against the fence, maybe a knee to the body, even going to the body, and hurting Belal pretty badly. So that's what I have for that fight. Betting-wise, I don't have anything too crazy because you don't really have too many bets, or at least lines getting released at this point, but I have JDM underdog plus 182. Manon Fiorot is also the favorite on FanDuel. From what I saw, I think she's minus 155, and then Bekzat is minus 185, and I think he's one of my betting locks, I will say, more so than Benoit Saint-Denis, who is actually like a lock, but betting-wise, I think you're going to get really good value on Bekzat in this fight. So I would say just parlay. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 3 singles for them, and then I'm going to parlay them together. That's who I have winning that fight. Again, some of these fights could be very 50-50, but especially for the Manon Fiorot fight and the Bekzat, I feel pretty confident, or at least decently confident in those ones. JDM in Belal is kind of, I won't say it's a coin flip. I do feel like decently confident in Jack Della Maddalena, like a 60-40 confidence. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Belal wins, but I feel like there's just so many opportunities for JDM to win this. So I'm going to go with JDM by finish in the second round. Super excited for this weekend. Maybe not a lot of people are. I feel like in terms of, like if you see the women's fights on the cards, I feel like that's actually some of the best women's fights you could probably get in the UFC. So I'm not too discouraged by it. Like Valentina versus Manon Fiorot, it's actually a pretty solid fight. And then Alexa Grasso and Natalia Silva. I like watching Natalia Silva. So I'm pretty excited for that one. Then we have Aldo on the card. Benoit Saint-Denis is probably going to get a finish. I think this card could have potential to rise up there in the rankings towards the end of the year as one of the better cards. At least we could get some like crazy finishes, in my opinion, or at least some crazy fights. So this is who I have for my picks. Let me know who you guys have down below in the comments. Yeah, and I'll see you guys next.